Caleb Ironwood pulled the reins, ready to turn back when something in the distance stopped him cold. 5 wooden poles stood alone in the middle of the open field, dark shapes swaying beneath them in the burning wind. At first, he thought they were bodies left as a warning. Then he narrowed his eyes and felt his chest tighten. They were not corpses. They were women. Caleb spurred his horse forward, dust rising around the hooves. As he came closer, the truth struck him like a blow too. The ribs. 5 young Apache women were tied upside down, thick ropes cutting into their ankles. Their bodies swayed helplessly, blood dripping from scraped wrists onto the hot sand below. Their hair hung loose, half covering faces swollen and darkened by blood rushing to their heads under the cruel sun. Crows circled overhead, their calls sharp and patient. The youngest girl barely moved at all. Her chest rose in weak, shallow breaths, as if the wind itself might steal what little life she had left. The heat pressed down without mercy. The eldest sister still struggled. Her name was Nayeli. Even as her face turned deep purple, she forced her head to lift. Her eyes, dark and fierce despite the pain, locked onto Caleb's. In them was fear, but also something stronger. "Hope, please," she gasped, her voice broken and thin. "Save us. I will bear your child. You can plant your seed in me every day. Just save my sisters." Caleb froze where he stood. He had heard desperate pleas before, promises made in fear. But this was different. This was not temptation. This was sacrifice. A sister offering herself so the others could live. His jaw tightened. He did not hesitate. Caleb drew his knife and cut the rope, holding the youngest first. Her small body dropped into his arms, light as a bundle of cloth. Then the second, then the third, then the fourth. The sun burned his back. Sweat stung his eyes, but he did not stop. When he cut Nayeli down, our body trembled as he caught her and lowered her gently to the ground. "You are safe now," Caleb said, his voice steady and low. "No one is dying here today." He laid Nayeli on the dry grass and moved fast. He carried the youngest girl first, her weight barely there against his chest. One by one, he lifted them onto his horse and led them toward his ranch, making 3 trips through heat that felt like fire on his skin. Only when all 5 lay in the shade beside his barn did the dizziness hit him. His vision swayed, his throat burned with thirst, but he pushed it aside. He poured water into his hand and let it drip slowly onto their lips. Careful not to give too much, the youngest clutched weakly at his fingers. 2 of the sisters gasped like swimmers breaking the surface of a river. One remained unconscious. Nayeli opened her eyes but could not speak, her breath heavy, each inhale a struggle. Only then did Caleb truly look at her. Her hair was tangled, her face swollen, but her eyes still held a rare light. The look of someone who had stood at death's door and refused to step through. He dipped a cloth in cool water and placed it gently on her forehead. Her breathing slowly began to steady. "What I said out there," Nayeli whispered at last. Caleb shook his head, cutting her off. "Forget it. You said it to save your sisters. I understand." Shame flickered across her face, but then he spoke again, his words firm and quiet. "No one here pays with their body to live. Not with me." Silence fell over the barn. 5 Apache sisters who had grown up being treated like property heard words they had never heard before. Caleb did not look at them like things to be owned. He moved from one to the next, cleaning wounds, checking pulses, shielding them from the sun. 3 days passed at Ironwood Ranch, drifting like time caught between 2 worlds. The desert burned beyond the fences, but inside there was water, shade, and the steady presence of a man who asked for nothing. Caleb cooked porridge, helped them sit up, and lit a lamp every night to watch for fever. He spoke little, but his care never wavered. The youngest began to smile again. Two others managed to stand. One insisted on helping in the stable, even when her legs shook. Only Nayeli did not recover fully. Pain lived deep in her shoulders and back, catching her breath with every movement. One afternoon, sunlight spilled through the window in thin golden lines as Caleb came to change her bandages. Nayeli watched him quietly. There was no fear in her eyes now and no expectation. That day in the field, she said softly, "I thought I was going to die. I only wanted my sisters to live." "I know," Caleb replied. "You owe me nothing." A long pause filled the room. Nayeli clutched the blanket, her chest rising slowly. When she looked up again, her gaze was clear and steady. "But today," she said, "I want to choose." Caleb felt his heart tighten as her words settled between them, heavy and uncertain, like a storm gathering just beyond the horizon. Caleb did not answer right away. He sat on the edge of the bed, the weight of Nayeli's words pressing into his chest. Outside, the wind moved through the dry grass, carrying the quiet sounds of the ranch. Inside, everything felt fragile, like one wrong word could break what had slowly formed. "I will not touch you while you are still weak," Caleb said at last, his voice calm but firm. "And I will never touch you because you think you owe me something." Nayeli studied his face. She had known men who spoke softly and still took what they wanted. But Caleb's eyes held no hunger, no claim, only restraint, only care. "This is not a debt," she said. "This is a decision, from a woman who finally gets to choose." Her words stayed with him long after he left the room. That night, Caleb slept lightly, his senses sharp. He had lived too long on the edge of danger not to know peace never lasted. And sure enough, trouble was already riding toward them. News of 5 Apache women vanishing from an open field spread fast. Morgan Wade, the man who controlled most of the dirt trade, the saloons, and the shadows in this part of the territory, flew into a rage. Those girls had been his property. He sent his men out before sunrise. Back at the ranch, Nayeli felt it before she heard it. The ground trembled faintly beneath the sound of distant hooves. Her sisters stirred in their sleep. Oh, fear flickered in their eyes as memory returned too quickly. "It is him," Nayeli said quietly. Caleb nodded. "But we are not running. It already prepared for this." On the first night, when Nayeli was still drifting in and out of consciousness, he had sent a telegram to the nearest town. 5 Apache women held and tortured. Morgan Wade may be responsible. Please investigate immediately. Now, torches flared beyond the fence and horses circled the ranch like wolves. Caleb checked the locks and moved the sisters into the safest room. He handed Nayeli a rifle, showing her how to hold it, how to breathe outside. Morgan Wade sat tall on a black horse, firelight twisting his smile into something cruel. "Caleb Ironwood," he shouted. "Hand them over. They belong to me." Caleb stepped onto the porch with a Winchester in his hands. He did not raise it. He held it like a promise. "They do not belong to anyone," he said. "They are free." Wade laughed, sharp and ugly. "Free? I bought them. They owe me." Before he could say more, a sharp whistle cut through the night. From the west, deputies rode in fast, weapons drawn. Sheriff Allen led them, his voice carrying authority Wade could not silence. "Morgan Wade." The sheriff said, "You are under arrest for kidnapping, torture, and trafficking." Chaos broke loose. Wade's men panicked. One tried to flee. A warning shot stopped him cold. Wade himself was pulled from his horse and forced into the dirt, cuffs biting into his wrists. From behind the window, Nayeli watched as the man who had haunted her life was reduced to nothing more than a prisoner. Her knees weakened, not from fear, but from relief, when it was over. Caleb came inside and found her trembling. "It is finished," he said. "No one will hurt you again." For the first time since the day she was hung upside down in that field. Nayeli believed it. The next morning, Sheriff Allen returned with papers stamped in red. He spoke slowly, as if each word carried weight. "All the contracts tying you to Wade were forgeries," he said. "None of them are valid. You are free." The room filled with quiet cries. One sister sank to the floor. Another laughed through tears. Their lives, once controlled by fear, were suddenly their own. Plans were made to return to the tribe. The red earth called to them. The drums, the firelight. Nayeli smiled at their excitement, but her eyes drifted, without meaning to, toward Caleb. That evening, as the sky burned crimson, Nayeli followed him to the stable. "Do you think I should go with them?" she asked. Caleb did not look at her. "Yes, that is where you belong. It is safe." She stepped closer and placed her hand on his arm, stopping him. "That is why I want to stay," she said. "Because I finally choose for myself." Caleb turned. Then truly looked at her. No fear, no chains. Only a woman standing free. Days passed. Her sisters left with tears and laughter, promises to visit. The ranch grew quiet. Too quiet. Just Caleb and Nayeli working side by side, learning each other without rushing, and slowly. Carefully, something deeper grew between them. But time had not been gentle with Caleb. Years of hard labor weighed on his body. One hot afternoon, as he lifted a heavy sack of feed, darkness rushed in. His heart thundered, then faltered. He collapsed. Nayeli heard the sound and ran. When she saw him on the ground, pale and barely breathing, terror unlike anything she had known tore through her. "Do not leave me," she whispered, cradling his head. "You saved me. Please." She stayed with him through the long night, wiping his brow, whispering words of life. When dawn came and his eyes finally opened, her tears fell freely. "You are crying," he murmured. "If you can say that," she said, smiling through sobs, "then you are still here." In that moment, Nayeli understood something with painful clarity. She loved him. Caleb's recovery was slow, but steady. For days, Nayeli did not leave his side. She fed him spoon by spoon, helped him sit up, and held his hand whenever pain crossed his face. Each breath he took felt like a gift she refused to waste. When his strength returned enough for him to stand, Caleb laughed softly, embarrassed by how weak his legs felt. Nayeli laughed with him, her fear easing little by little. In those quiet moments, Caleb realized something he had not felt since his wife died. He wanted to live, not out of duty, not out of habit, but because someone needed him and he wanted to be there. Nayeli spoke to him through those days. She told him about her father, about the night he died and left behind debts that were never real. She spoke of men who looked at her as if she was something to be taken, never chosen. And she told him how hanging in that field, she thought her life would end without ever knowing kindness. "You were the first man," she said one evening, "who touched my life without trying to own it." Caleb listened without interrupting. When she finished, he reached out and gently touched her cheek. "If there is anything I fear," he said, "it is hurting you." "You never have," Nayeli replied. "You gave me back my choice, and I choose you." As the days passed, the ranch settled into a calm rhythm. In the mornings, they worked together. In the afternoons, Caleb taught Nayeli how to ride, how to read the wind, how to mend rope. At night, they sat by the lamp and spoke of small things that slowly became everything. Their closeness grew. Not rushed, not demanded. It came from trust, from two wounded lives finding peace in the same quiet space. One evening, Caleb took Nayeli to the field behind the ranch. Fresh green grass pushed through the red earth, stubborn and alive. The sun lowered, painting the land in gold. I thought. My life was finished, Caleb said. Then you came. Nayeli looked at him, no longer the girl who begged for life, but a woman standing whole. I thought I was born only to endure, she said. You showed me how to choose. Caleb took a deep breath and knelt in the grass. His movements careful but sure. I do not have much, he said. Only this land, these hands, and a heart that has known loss. But if you will have them, they are yours. Nayeli, will you marry me? Tears filled her eyes, not from fear, but from something warm and overwhelming. She knelt before him and took his hands, then gently placed them over her belly. Caleb, she whispered, there is new life growing here, not from desperation, not from debt, from love. Caleb froze, then pulled her into his arms, his shoulders. Shaking as tears he had long buried finally fell. Yes, Nayeli said softly, I choose you. Freely. They stood together as the sun set, the same land that once held suffering, now holding promise. To people who had been broken by life, now bound not by fear, but by choice. In time, the Ironwood Ranch filled with laughter, with life, with a future neither of them had believed was possible. Because true love is not born from saving someone. It is born when both stand free, look at each other, and choose to stay.